documentary RFK Must Die features the first ever interview with the brother of Sirhan Sirhan, the man who shot Robert Kennedy. Here, Munir Sirhan describes finding out about his brother's involvement with Kennedy's death.
I went to work as normal, and I saw my colleagues sitting in the coffee shop. I looked over at the TV and said something to the effect that Bobby Kennedy has been shot. All of a sudden, I saw Sirhan's picture on there. It said something to the effect that if anyone recognizes this fellow, to get in touch with the police. I looked at it once, and when I took a closer look, I ran down to my superiors, and since I didn't have a car at the time, I asked him if I could borrow his car to run home. Complete shock, devastation, shock. And when we first saw him in jail, I think Mother and I went up first. When Mother first asked him, he says, "Mother, I don't remember. I don't know what happened." And he says that to this day, when you ask him about the particulars of that night, he doesn't recall.
Munir Sirhan, first interview. He's the brother of Sirhan Sirhan. It appears in RFK Must Die, the new film about Robert F. Kennedy. The Australian-British journalist John Pilger was with Robert F. Kennedy the night he was killed. Pilger had been covering the Kennedy campaign as it traveled across the country. He's written critically of Kennedy's record as Attorney General and as presidential candidate. Earlier today, I spoke with John Pilger on the telephone from Italy. He was reporting for the Daily Mirror at the time and had one of the last interviews with Robert F. Kennedy, which he described as a...
And I went along to the Ambassador Hotel where Kennedy was due to appear, having won that primary. And in fact, I'd been invited with a number of other journalists to join him and his entourage at what was then a fairly well-known discotheque in Los Angeles called The Factory. And we'd been told to follow the candidate through the kitchen because they were going out the back way. And as we waited for Kennedy to appear on stage in the ballroom at the Ambassador, one of the Kennedy workers came up to us and said, "There's a funny-looking guy in the kitchen. He's giving me the creeps." Well, that was Sirhan Sirhan. And I have to say that none of us, journalists though we were, went off and inquired who this funny-looking guy was. Kennedy arrived, stood on the stage, made a very short speech, which ended famously with "Now on to Chicago," where the Democratic nomination would have happened, the convention there. And then he and Ethel, his wife, and his two protectors, Bill Barry, former FBI agent, and Rosie Greer, NFL player, followed by half a dozen journalists, including myself, started to walk towards the kitchen. Kennedy entered the kitchen. Sirhan leapt up on a serving area, pointed a gun at him, and fired. He was wrestled. Kennedy fell. He was wrestled to the ground, and then there were other shots. There's no question that there was another gunman because one of the people who was hit, just grazed, was standing next to me, and that happened when Sirhan Sirhan had been wrestled to the ground. So that's the interesting thing. There was another assassin, or several assassins, and then it was Bedlam. As you know, Kennedy died about 24 hours later.
John Pilger, what about Robert Kennedy's views of Vietnam? Also, of course, your view is not the standard one, that there were other assassins.
I I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the second part.
Your view is not the standard one that there were other assassins there, but...
Well, I told the FBI interviewed quite a few of us, and I told the FBI at length just what had happened, the numbers of shots that were fired that I thought I heard, and I'm pretty sure I did hear them, which
How many?
Sirhan couldn't have fired. There were two people seen running from the Ambassador Hotel, including one famous woman in a polka dot dress. A number of us thought we saw those. We can't be absolutely sure about that. There is a new documentary out, which I haven't seen, which I understand goes into this in depth. But
well, John,